feel like if something happens to the driver, like they fall off or something like that, and there's a sidecar, you're on those 3 stable wheels, so at least you don't fall automatically as well.
It doesn't work like in Last Crusade.
You could jump up onto the bike and then start taking control of it, and then jump to the tank.
No,
and then from the tank you open it up, and the guy driving the tank, he comes out and you punch him in the face.
This is We Have Concerns. I'm Jeff Ganata.
I'm Anthony Carboni. Julian Murdoch sent this in.
Yeah,
your buddy Julian
from the show.
From Gamers with Jobs, which is a show that you should listen to if you're a gamer with a job, I would imagine.
Or not.
Yeah, maybe if you just want to hear some Gamers with Jobs. He sent in this thing that says, it's from recordingrevolution.com, and the reason that you are not creating as much is because you are consuming too much. You're not making creative things because you're looking at too many creative things, is the gist.
Right.
Huh.
What do you think about that?
I'm of 2 minds on this.
Yeah.
Number one, yeah, totally. Like, absolutely. We're wasting our time all day, every day. That's all we do. We're time-wasting machines. Number 2, you can't create things without taking in other creative work.
I agree with that.
And I feel like we're at a time in the world where you can see such a vast array of creative things given a platform that you could never see before.
And everybody can be a creator like never before.
And, so does that make more stuff to kind of like sift through? And does that... What is the cost benefit analysis of this thing, of having all this media versus wasting our time looking at it?
I'm going to go ahead and point out the obvious hypocrisy of us creating a show about relatively little and telling people that it's weird that they consume so much crap about relatively little.
Do not look at the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. So having that be said,
James Franco,
there's a finite amount of time in your day, and if you spend it consuming all the time, you can't create. But you can't not consume and still create. Your consumption is integral to your creation, in my estimation. That's a Dr. Seuss line.
That was like, it starts with a T and that rhymes with P. And that stands for pool.
Your consumption is related to your masturbation.
Welcome to the Gilbert and Sullivan cast. Yeah, okay, so there are a couple personal episodes in my life that I think relate to this directly.
Ooh.
Number 1, I was really worried that I was just wading through too much stuff a while back, and I was just like, man, I gotta stop. And I would, for a very long time, I would withhold from myself. If I didn't create so much during the day, I wasn't allowed to watch a movie, check stuff out. I wasn't allowed
use it as a reward system.
I would use it as a reward system, but the problem is the more you withhold from yourself, the harder it is to create, because watching other creative work or watching unfamiliar things and your brain making connections between unfamiliar things that allow you to be creative in the first place.
Some people call that stealing.
I just happen to call it capitalizing on opportunity.
That's called creating stuff.
It's why, why don't we go start our own comic book company? No, they're not. It's not the Justice League. They're the Wildcats.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's not X-Men. No. So, like, it's true that, like, the more that I was sitting in front of my computer screen, telling myself, create, and withholding cool stuff from myself and being like, no, I can't go out tonight. I'm not letting myself do that until I create X amount of things. I was stifling my brain, just stifling it.
Yeah, starving it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, there's probably not a lot of BuzzFeed that I need to look at. Like, I probably could look at like two BuzzFeeds.
Quality versus quantity.
Sure.
Right, because, I think we can all agree, cut out the crap, and that you don't have to spend time, investing in, Real Housewives marathon.
Those women are friends, and they're going through a lot.
It's true.
And I feel like the more I watch them, the more they are part of my family.
Yeah.
Which one do you watch? You watch the Hotlanta? You watch the LA?
I've never watched any of those shows. I know you're going to berate me in a second.
I'm not going to berate you. I've never actually watched them.
It's quality over quantity. And I think that there's a lot to be said for inspiration, for being inspired to create by seeing other people create great things. I sit down and watch an episode of Breaking Bad and I go, my God, First of all, it gives me crushing doubt that I could ever make anything that good. But then once I get past
First,
that,
crushing doubt. Second, horrible depression.
Yeah.
Horrible depression.
creative process is it's lengthy, and then after the depression, back to the doubt, and then there's food.
Yeah.
Food comes into it, and then you just sort of eat away your feelings.
Yeah.
And then after that, then you buckle down and you make something. Then there's realizing that the thing you just made is terrible.
Yeah.
And
then you watch that Ira Glass video about having taste
Right.
and making terrible things. And then you're like, well, I'm just going to power through. But first, I'm going to watch another Breaking Bad. Quality and quantity is a big thing. But you never know what's going to be quality, right? Like, that's the thing. Until you look at it, you don't know if it's going to be good.
you can kind
There
of
are certain,
tell.
okay, look, there are certain things you know it's not going to be good. Like, you know that BuzzFeed is going to be 20 GIFs, like,
Right.
or GIFs. I want to be platform
Let's get into
agnostic.
that conversation real quick, because it is GIFs.
It's GIFs, but
Like, okay, the creator said it's GIFs, but
Yeah.
the creator's full of shit. Because what is this
excuse me,
graphical
Excuse me.
information file?
Okay, why don't you go up to fucking Henry Ford and tell him it's an automobile, all right? Why don't you go up to fucking Sergey and Larry and tell them it's Jugal? Number one,
That would be
I am
anti-Semitic.
offended. And number two, you didn't create it, motherfucker. Who are you?
No, okay, he created it and he named it something and then abbreviated that name. You don't just
And
get
then
to
told
make up.
people-
You don't just get to make up a pronunciation. Pronunciation.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
If you created it. Okay, so let's
You don't
start
get
calling...
to say I created this. I made this particular table, so now I'm going to call it a tablet.
You gonna call it NASA now instead of NASA? Or are you gonna go with the way that they told you to do it?
National Air and Space Museum, NASA. NASA? Oh, you just blew my mind, Anthony Carboni.
Yeah. Also, I don't think there's a museum in there. There's no M.
What did I say? Museum?
National Aeronautics Space Museum.
Did I say that?
NASM.
What did I get museum from? National Air and Space.
They have a lovely. I think you're
What
thinking
does
of
NASA
the
stand for?
Smithsonian Museum, the Air and Space Museum at the
Yeah.
Smithsonian.
What's
National
happening? Am I having
Aeronautics
a
and
stroke?
Space Administration or Association. I gotta look that up. Shit, now you're making me second guess myself. What I'm not second guessing is how to say it. It's NASA. If the man says the
GIF,
file is a
man.
GIF, then it's a GIF.
That's stupid.
There was a great article by Andy Baio. He said that GIF is the file format, GIF is the cultural usage of it. So like the file is a GIF, but if you're looking at an animated cat thing somebody made for you on Tumblr, they made you a GIF. Yeah, it's a gift. Every single one of them is a present.
To humanity. Interesting.
Yeah, and I kind of like that, but it's
Yeah.
also kind of a cop-out.
It's having both ways. Everybody's a
little bit
winner.
of both. But I'll tell you what, if I created it and I was like, dude, it's GIF, and then somebody was like, no, it's not. That's like when you go up to somebody and mispronounce their name and they correct you, and then you go and then
dude,
you
but here's my-
mispronounce it again. Like,
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Like, dude,
But
that's fucked up.
He didn't say, you know what I want to do? I want to create a file format that is only 3 letters long. No, he created a file format and he called it a graphic information file. And because the way DOS works, you need to have a 3-letter extension at the end of the thing, he had to abbreviate that. Now, he doesn't get to just decide how the abbreviation is mispronounced, right? He named it something.
no, he doesn't get to decide how it's mispronounced. Everybody's doing that for him. He gets to decide how it's pronounced. We apparently, as a human race, get to tell him how we're going to mispronounce it. If you invented something, you would be real pissed if I started telling you what to call it. That's all I'm saying.
Why?
That's all I'm saying. Pretend you're the inventor of the GIF for a moment.
Yeah. Oh, man.
GIF.
Man, it's... Yeah, exactly. I'm going to call it a GPEG. That's what I'm going to call it.
Fine. I think that was created by a large organization anyway, so fuck them.
You know they were assholes. 'cause
Stick it to the man.
They used 4 letters instead of 3.
Look, that aside, if you are spending all of your time in guesting GIFs,
That guy is like, listen, you're a jest in my house. And when you are a jest in my house, you call it a GIF. You can go out to the garden and you can pick as many flowers as you want. But when you come here and you're a jest in my house, you call it a GIF. Now, Joe away. I don't want to talk to you about this again.
look, I'm sorry, man. To make it up to you, I bought us tickets to the Billy Gold musical.
I adore Billy Goal. I like it when he plays the guitar. He plays the piano a lot, but when he plays the guitar, it's even better.
But this guy on Recording Revolution, this fucking Jai, he suggests that we take a 7-day challenge.
Sounds like a lot of days.
Yeah, I can't commit to that. I can't commit to anything that's 7 hours long. I can't even commit to like marathoning Real Housewives. Hulu just plays the next one for you, and I'm just laying there.
You don't even have to do anything.
I don't have to do anything.
You could be trapped under something,
and I still can't commit to it. He suggests that you take a 7-day challenge where every time you go to a blog or watch a video tutorial or read a magazine article, anytime you consume media,
right, you
write on a sheet of paper 15 minutes.
Okay.
You keep that paper with you.
Okay.
And at the end of 7 days,
you've created something, a paper with 15 minutes written on it over and over.
That, if you are in art school, could potentially get you a scholarship for the next semester.
Your analysis of time is remarkable. It made me think, Larry, I am just so in awe. The idea of breaking time into 15-minute increments and then writing 15-minute over and over again. I just don't understand where you've come up with such amazing inspiration.
Do you write the check? Who? Am I an artist now?
So you're saying I write down every time I'm about to ingest some sort of media. I write 15 minutes on a piece of paper.
Yeah. And at the end of the week, you tally up how much time you spent ingesting media, and then you compare it to the amount of time you spent creating things.
And when it's wildly disproportionate, you feel sorry for yourself?
Well, I don't think it's going to be wildly disproportionate. He said that he found like an extra 3.5 hours a week because he was looking at the 15 minutes, and like 2 of the 15-minute blocks were just things that he didn't need to read. Things that it was just, dude, I shouldn't have done that, and I knew going into it that I shouldn't have done that, and it wasn't worth 15 minutes. And it's another mindfulness thing. Like mindfulness is a big thing with me.
Just like, being aware of what you're doing.
What the fuck are you doing all the time?
Yeah.
Because if you sit back and just catch yourself, most of us don't know what the fuck we're doing all the time.
I agree with that.
Like, holy shit, where did half the day go?
Yeah.
You didn't even pay attention.
I don't appreciate you using that term around me. I'm Italian. I don't appreciate the Dago thing.
I'm sorry, Dejo.
Thank you.
But this is the thing. So just by realizing what you've been taking in, you can change your habits. And this is something that this is the second episode in my life that is kind of similar to this. When I started going to my therapist for my ADD, he was like, you've got to stick to habits. You've got to create good routines. He's like, it's too easy for you to fall off. And he's like, you've got to find ways to do it. And at the same time, I was also reading this book that was about eradicating bad habits, right? Because I knew that I was just spending too much of my day doing wasteful things. For 3 weeks, I just kept a little like notebook in my back pocket, and I was keeping a habit journal. And I knew what a couple of my biggest worst habits were. And one was just internet consumption, using the internet to avoid something. Something that I really noticed was like, I'd be in the middle of a project, and if I came up against a speed bump, it's the most natural thing in the world where like, if you're cruising along on a project and then all of a sudden it gets hard, it's kind of this break in your brain. And the most natural thing you do is just open a tab.
Yeah.
Go get a coffee.
Right.
Go do something.
This is why I don't understand how people can work in coffee shops. I've never been able to understand how people can do, because I'd be so distracted by a million things.
I can't do it.
I don't know how people do that.
Granted, I can't work efficiently anywhere, but the coffee shop is a bad one. So, what's happening in that case is you are actually using the internet to avoid conflict. You are using the internet to avoid hardship in your life, to avoid thinking. This is probably a surmountable thing. It's probably something where if you really had to just think about it for 5 to 10 minutes, you could solve it. But because you've been running on autopilot for so long, it's just easier to walk away.
Right.
And so knowing that I was doing that is I would write down, like, what did I do? Okay, internet usage. I was using it to avoid work. And this is what I went to do. And then you don't like write down, fuck me for doing this or something like that. You write down something that's like productive.
Right.
Next time when I catch myself doing this, I will close the tab. It's okay. You know, you have to write down shit that's like, it's okay, things get hard, I just have to realize that.
Yeah, I think that's the big danger is constantly judging yourself for things that you're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Because that requires you to sort of judge, well, am I doing something good or something bad? And I feel like that would be a path to oblivion as well.
Negative reinforcement doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't work for people. It doesn't work for dogs. It doesn't work for anybody.
Right.
So if you're negatively reinforcing yourself, and we are the hardest on ourselves, we're harder than anybody else will be.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful not to fall into that habit of just slapping yourself around.
Right.
So, but what was crazy is by the end of the week, I noticed two things. On the first few days, I was writing it down every 15, 20 minutes. Number two, just knowing that I was doing it, just keeping a record, by the end of the week, I could see that I was doing it once an hour, once every hour and a half. And then it became like easier and easier and easier to avoid it and to change it up. And just it became replacing a bad habit with a good habit. Mm-hmm. So I like what this guy is doing on a certain level.
I can totally get with that. And I don't want to even give a counter argument to it because it's awesome.
Come at me, bro.
One of the
come at my personal growth.
One of my favorite quotes is "A moment enjoyed is never wasted," and I kind of believe that, you know. And while I'm totally down with the idea of like, well, you're really just substituting in something that's painless for something that's painful, and you're just avoiding it. It's not healthy in a certain way. I also hate laying judgment at my own feet for doing something that I enjoy and
no, absolutely. And it's just important
working toward a richer life.
Sure. But it's important to realize when you're really doing that and when you're taking advantage of that,
right.
You know?
Yeah. I just recently, it's funny. This was submitted by Julian from Gamers with Jobs. Cause they just, had a thing where they were taking submissions for a magazine that they're doing. And I wrote a column for it. And I originally wrote columns back when I was a kid. But I haven't written long form. This is like a 3,000 word assignment, right? I haven't written long.
How young were you? Were you like 7 years old working at like a turn of the century Dickensian newspaper?
Please, sir, can I have some more ink?
Canada!
Yes, right. I'm sorry.
You get just as much ink as everybody else.
But I've only written 300 words, and I need 400 or more, please, to just express how I feel about this Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition.
Everybody gets the same amount of ink.
But I have more to say about Blanca.
Garnet Lee only used half the amount of ink.
You bring up Garnet because he's the only guy as old as me that's still in games journalism.
I just picture you and Garnet Lee in little short pants with your books on straps.
It's not inaccurate.
Skipping off to the newspaper.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. That's how Weekend Confirmed was born.
Yeah.
Garnet, you know, we wouldn't even have to worry about ink quotas and ink shortages if we just made our own podcast.
Golly, I don't know, Jeff. But if the publishers find out, they'll be real sore. He's Shaggy from Scooby-Doo? I think this whole newspaper's haunted. Pirate ghosts.
Anyway, so I wrote for the first time in a long time. I wrote a long form thing, which requires you to sit there and freaking get your thoughts in order and write. You know, and writing something. It was hard to do that again. It was hard to force myself to express in more than 140 characters at a time.
Yeah,
and ultimately so satisfying. Like, I'm so proud of the article that I wrote, and I want to do it more again. And, you know, there's something wonderful about committing larger chunks of your time and in getting over that hump of, I don't have to do this.
Right.
I can go click on some other crap and click around.
But so that's the thing, though. As much as you were like, you need time to do things that you enjoy, we're fucking grown-ups, right, and you have to organize your time.
Right.
You know, like, if you can sit for 4 hours and write and get this thing done and not open those tabs, well, it's done, and then you probably have more time at the end of the day to open those tabs.
But it's a different equation when you're an adult, because there's nobody saying you got to have this homework done and turned in by Monday, and there's nobody saying, you know, you do this or you don't eat tonight, or you can do whatever you want, and there's something even more empowering when you do the thing that isn't comfortable.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, I find that, like, as much as we like to reassure ourselves, like, oh, it's fine, I've been working and I'm just looking at Tumblr because I like Tumblr and there's nothing wrong with that, and like, whatever, man. What you find as you become more productive is if you spend that large chunk of time being productive, at the end of the day, you don't really want to look at Tumblr. Like, that's the thing, is like you have to really learn, like this guy is talking about, what is the time waster and what's the thing you genuinely want to look at.
It's like the junk food of information. Like when you start eating right, junk food sounds gross. And when you start like putting good things into your body.
I moved from the regular ice cream sandwiches to the low fat ice cream sandwiches, and I've got more energy.
Yeah. It's just so.
And I vomit less in the middle of the night.
Not zero.
Not zero. No, nobody vomits no times during the evening. But I find myself rolling over and vomiting in my sleep less now that I'm eating 6 low-fat ice cream bars a day instead of, this is not very far off from my actual diet. It's so, it sounds like it's like, Anthony's doing a dumb thing. No, that's my diet. I had Uber deliver me ice cream.
Low fat though, man. It's baby steps.
It's baby steps. But that's what this is about though too. Is like, look, take the 7-day challenge. I want to do this. I'm going to do this. Are you going to do it? Let's do this.
I want you to come back in next week with your paper stack of 15 minutes
with my charts and tables.
Yeah.
But if you guys do this too, it'd be great to hear what we end up with, because I have a feeling, it's been a while since I kept that habit journal. I have a feeling I've slipped back into my old habits, especially now that I'm, like you said, working from home. All my deadlines are self-imposed.
The information age is fraught with peril.
There you go. Send your results as you're doing it, or anything you feel along the way, to us on Twitter. I'm at @Carboni.
And I am at Jeff Canada.
And thank you to everyone, by the way, who has been rating us on iTunes and on Stitcher and on all of those platforms. A lot of people have been like, hey, well, what if I don't get my podcasts through those platforms? How can I help? Well, just downloading and listening is wonderful. And don't
appreciate it.
Yeah, and don't
Tell
think
your
that
friends.
Yeah, don't think that we're being like, well, these are the only 2 things that matter, but they're the only 2 things that fucking matter. You gotta get on iTunes, create it. No.
Thank you for writing down 15 minutes and enjoying the show.
Those are just the charts that are kept. So if you're on those, thank you for rating and reviewing. And like Jeff said, if you're not on those, thank you for listening, and tell a friend if you enjoy the show.
We should also quickly thank Kevin Pereira and the guys at Super Creative for letting us use their facilities. We've been the beneficiaries of a lot of generosity to make the show sound a little bit better. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Listen to the Pointless Podcast.
Indeed.